Hold on, something's already popping up on my screen. I do not like this. Choose who can participate. Set a delay between messages. No, I don't need to do any of that. Anyway, welcome to our first live prediction slash chat here. We are going to be discussing AEW Revolution, which takes place in about 2 hours. It's been a wild ride to AEW Revolution, and tonight is going to be off the charts insanity. Wherever you guys are watching it, I hope you guys are ready. I hope you got your pizza. I hope you got your wings. And if you don't like pizza and wings, enjoy your kale and celery sticks. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. But I do know what to tell you about the show. It is about to be insane. I almost said something I probably can't say on here. However, I'm looking at the card here, and we've got ourselves our first our 0 hour match. Which for everybody else, that is the pre-show. We have Mark Briscoe teaming with the Lucha Brothers to take on Ari Daivari and the Varsity Athletes, which I'm assuming is... see, this is how out of the loop I am. I haven't really been watching wrestling much. I'm going to assume that's Brian Pillman Jr. and... who the fuck is that guy? Oh yeah, Griff Garrison. Anyway, I don't know how I feel about the Lucha Brothers being relegated to the pre-show. I've made my displeasures known very, very gratefully, in great detail in the last number of months. Most definitely when they lost the Trios Championships, and I really don't know how I feel about the Lucha Brothers being on the pre-show. Yeah, they get to team up with Mark Briscoe and take on. I mean, they're both probably definitely going over, but that's not the point. You have the Lucha Brothers, who are former tag, and you relegate them to the pre-show. Now, again, I get it. The pre-show is the match. It's one of the most important matches. Oh, Varsity Athletes, Tony Nese. That's correct. That is correct. Thank you. Yeah, that is my mistake. My big mistake there. Yeah, but like I said, I really don't know how I feel about having the Lucha Brothers relegated to the pre-show. I get it. It's the match that's going to get everybody hooked. It's the free match that people are going to see on YouTube and say, hey, you want to see more of this? Come watch it on pay-per-view. I understand that. But I just don't know how I feel about my Lucha Brothers. Those are my dudes, bro. I've been following the Lucha Brothers since before Lucha Underground. You know what I mean? Like, those are my fucking dudes. And I feel bad that they're being relegated to the pre-show. Along with Mark Briscoe, I feel bad for him as well. This is his first big AEW pay-per-view, and he's on the pre-show. Now, I know he was on the Ring of Honor pay-per-views and stuff, but that's not the grand scale that AEW Revolution is. This is like their WrestleMania. I know a lot of people can argue and say that All Out is like their WrestleMania, but Revolution is like their WrestleMania. It's WrestleMania season. You know what I mean? Like, we're 3 weeks away from WrestleMania. This is like AEW's WrestleMania. So, I mean, honestly, like I said, Lucha Brothers and Mark Briscoe are most definitely. And if they lose to these guys, then I'm going to have to raise some concerns. Then I'm going to have to raise a little bit of hell. I might have to send out a couple emails. But my prediction is that Mark Briscoe and the Lucha Brothers absolutely just wiped the fucking floor with Daivari, Tony Nese, and I'm assuming Griff Garrison. I actually have no idea. I know it's Tony Nese. I'm assuming it's Griff Garrison. It's his partner, or it could be Pillman. I don't know. Like I said, I'm very out of the loop when it comes to a lot of the AEW stuff. Like, I've been trying to watch here and there, but I've been working. I've been going crazy doing projects, working on getting the merch site set up, doing all kinds of stuff. It's just been driving me insane. But then we move to the main card, and then we have Christian Cage versus Jungle Jack Perry. Is he not going by Jungle Boy anymore? That's crazy. In the final burial. Now, Christian Cage and Jungle Boy. I like Jungle Boy. I do. Jungle Jack Perry, whatever the hell you want to call him. I like him. But, it's been 3 years since he's debuted, and he's shown, like, zero depth, zero growth. Excuse me 1 second. I got to make sure my charger's still plugged in so I don't lose my phone here. There you go. Anyway. Like I said, it's been 3 years and Jungle Boy's still basically doing the same stuff he did 3 years ago. The only thing now, he's on a little bit more of a grand scale because he's taking on, Christian Cage. Christian Cage, of course, a former 2-time world heavyweight champion, WA world champion. So it's nothing to sneeze about. You know what I mean? Like, it's a good thing that he's in there with Christian. But I mean, it's 2023. I really don't need to see Christian anymore. I really don't need to see a lot of these guys anymore. And the same thing goes for WWE. Like, I don't need to see, and I'm glad he's gone. Like, I don't need to see the Undertaker anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I love Undertaker, but I don't need to see Undertaker in the ring anymore. You know, I don't need to see all these old guys coming in. And I'm not saying Christian Cage is old, because Christian Cage can still go with the best of them, bro. Like, Christian Cage is a fucking machine. He's doing things that I can't do at 25. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm excited to see what they do. Ever since Christian Cage turned on Jungle Boy, I don't really think that things have, like the whole thing with Luchasaurus, when Luchasaurus was on Jungle Boy's side, and then he was on Christian's side, and then he's on Jungle Boy's side, and now he's back on Christian's side. I really didn't care for that. I feel like that was just poorly written. But, again, I'm not the booker. I'll never be a booker. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not, I'm not trying to knock anybody. I just didn't like how it was written. But I feel like tonight's going to be a good night for Jungle Boy, and I think Jungle Boy's going to put the nail in the coffin, and he's going to beat Christian Cage. And then we move on. We got Chris Jericho versus Ricky Starks. Now, this is another one. Talk about Christian Cage. 2023, I don't need to see Chris Jericho anymore. And I know that's going to get me a lot of hate. But I don't need to see Chris Jericho anymore, man. Like, it's a new... Chris Jericho was the Millennium Man, okay? It's a new millennium. You know what I mean? Like, it's only been 23 years since that, but it's 23 years since that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to see Chris Jericho anymore. You know what I mean? I really feel like Chris Jericho's a shell of his former self. He's still entertaining. Don't get me wrong. Still entertaining. Do not get me wrong. Don't get it twisted. Chris Jericho is one of the most entertaining people to ever step into a wrestling ring. Whether it was WWF, WWE, AEW, WCW, no matter where he went, Chris Jericho was always entertaining. But I really don't need to see Chris Jericho competing anymore, And I'm not a big fan of the Jericho Appreciation Society. I'm not a fan of Jake Hager. And this isn't me being biased at all, because I'm being dead ass serious. I haven't liked Jack Swagger since he was Jack Swagger. I haven't liked him since he was in WWE. I don't like Matt Menard, and I don't like Jeff Parker. Don't care for them at all. Daniel Garcia, when he's not kicking fans in the head, he's got the personality of wet paint. Actually, I think I'd rather watch the wet paint. Sammy Guevara, after what he said about Sasha Banks, it's just not cool, bro. Like, you don't get to walk around and say you want to do that to somebody and just get away with it. That's not cool. I don't care if you went to sensitivity training. I don't care if you patched it up. I don't care, bro. Like, that's predatory behavior, and that shit got no business in wrestling. That shit's got no business in wrestling at all. Predatory behavior can fucking die with the rest of the previous generation of wrestling. That could stay in the 90s. That could stay in the 80s. That predatory shit can die. You know what I mean? Like, we don't need it anymore. There's no reason for it. And if you're saying it just to get heat, that's not fucking... You don't need to get heat by saying you're going to, do that to somebody. That's cheap. That's cheap heat. Speaking of cheap heat, we'll get to the main event later, talk about MJF. But Ricky Starks, man, I've been on the Ricky Starks train since the beginning of AEW, bro. I've been on the Ricky Starks train since he debuted. I was a big fan of him when he won the FTW championship. I was a fan of him when he was still in NWA. And he was having that feud with Aaron Stevens. That's where I really got on the Ricky Starks train, that feud he had with Aaron Stevens for the national championship in NWA. I really feel like that put Ricky on a pedestal to, be one of the most successful younger guys in this business. You got a lot of young guys up and coming. You got Austin Theory over there in WWE doing his thing. He's a young guy. He's 25, 26 years old. He might even be younger than that. I honestly don't know. You got Will Hobbs, who just won the Face of the Revolution ladder match. You know what I mean? Like, you got all these young guys coming up. But I believe that Ricky Starks is up here. And the rest of the guys, they're climbing that ladder. You know what I mean? But Ricky Starks, he's ready to break out. He's ready to break through and become a fucking star. And I hope this is the match that does it, because I've been pulling for Ricky Starks since day one. It's day one. I wanted Ricky Starks to break out and be the face of the Revolution. I want him to be the face of the fucking company. I want Ricky Starks to be on the posters. I want Ricky Starks to be the world champion. I want Ricky Starks all over the place, bro. I want to see him on Good Morning America. I want to see him on the, I don't know if Jay Leno still has his show. I want to see him on the Tonight Show. I want to see him on all these different shows. You know what I mean? I want to see him parading that championship around. I want Ricky Starks to be the star we know Ricky Starks can be. But that's not up to me. That's up to Ricky Starks and the higher ups over there in Jacksonville. But I think tonight, honestly, this is it. This is going to be where we find out if the company has any faith in Ricky Starks or not. I know there was a lot of turmoil when he left Team Taz. There was a couple months you didn't see Ricky on TV. But now he's in there with Chris Jericho, literally one of the greatest of all time. And this is Ricky's moment that he has to win this match, bro. There's nothing about it that says Chris Jericho needs to win this match. Jericho does not need this win. Jericho never, and all of Jericho's wins, you know what I mean, in the last 5 years, he hasn't needed any of them. He didn't need that championship win for the first AEW show. I mean, I get why, but he didn't need it. You know what I mean? But this is really where they're going to prove if the company has any faith in Ricky Starks, and I hope they do. I hope they have the same faith I have. I hope they have the same faith that a lot of people have in Ricky Starks. And put him over big tonight. This is it. You want a face of the Revolution? Here's your face of the Revolution. Like he says, the Revolution is televised, or will be televised, and it's going to be televised tonight. And that is my pick for that match. My pick is that Ricky Starks is going to beat Chris Jericho and push himself to superstardom. Now, I could be wrong, and this could be a Fandango situation where Ricky Starks, boom, gets pushed up to the mid-card scene and then immediately falls out, and then he's back in developmental within a year. You know what I mean? I hope that doesn't happen. But if it does, then I know that the company had no faith in Ricky. We move on to Samoa Joe versus Wardlow for the TNT title. And now this is one I'm going to be very critical about. The last number of months with the TNT championship, I'm a firm believer the championship should have been retired after Brody Lee passed away. When Brody Lee passed away, that championship should have been retired. I'm sorry. I know there's been a lot of people who have held that championship since, Miro, Darby, Joe, Wardlow, you know what I mean? But I feel like that championship should have been retired and they should have just bought in a different championship or something. Or they should have just bought in the All-Atlantic championship and made that the mid-card title, because the booking of the TNT title over the last number of months has been really fucking stupid. Like, really fucking stupid. Wardlow had this huge, huge boost of momentum. He beat MJF. He had this massive boost of momentum heading in. And then they dropped Joe takes the title from Wardlow. Stop all of his momentum dead. Joe drops the title to Darby. So Wardlow couldn't beat Joe, but Darby Allin could. Okay. So Joe drops the title to Darby. Darby drops the title to Joe. And now we have Joe and Wardlow here for the TNT title at Revolution. Now, this is where they should put Wardlow over again and strap the rocket to that motherfucker's back and don't let go. Strap that rocket to him and let him take the fuck off, because it needs to happen. There needs to be a seismic shift in AEW. And I think Wardlow is going to be that seismic shift. Wardlow is fucking awesome. Like, I know a lot of people, there's people out there who compare him to Goldberg by the way he acts and stuff. Goldberg kind of sucks. Wardlow, I mean, yeah, he could probably, he'd probably be a little bit of a better promo, but that doesn't have anything to do with it. You know what I mean? Wardlow, the things he can do for a guy his size is absolutely insane. So I feel like tonight is the perfect opportunity, just like I said with Ricky Starks. Strap that fucking title to Wardlow and send him to the moon. And don't let him come back until he's got that world championship. Let him take the titles. Let him unify the championships. Let him be champion for a year. Let Samoa Joe or MJF or somebody come in a year and whoop his ass, and take the title. But for right now, they need to strap the title onto Wardlow, let him keep the championship, and let that momentum go. Because if they fuck this up again, there's going to be no hope for Wardlow. And it pains me to say it because I like Wardlow. But it's going to pain me to say it. If he loses here tonight, he's dead in the water. When he was getting ready to turn on MJF, the build-up to that, like the friction that every single week when the crowd was like, here it comes, here it comes. And when he finally snapped and he finally turned on MJF, the crowd went insane. Y'all seen it. I seen it. The crowd went insane. And they went nowhere with it. They went absolutely nowhere with it. Yeah, he won the TNT championship and he had, a decent run. but they halted all of his momentum dead, having him lose to Joe. Joe losing the title 2 weeks later to Darby, and then losing the title 2 weeks later, Darby losing to Joe. Now, I love Samoa Joe. Don't get me wrong. Don't get it twisted. Samoa Joe is the shit, bro. I love Samoa Joe. I was a firm believer that Samoa Joe should have been a 3-time WWE champion before he left. You know what I mean? He already should have been world champion. He should have been universal champion. And I'm glad to see that he's got the title here in AEW. But this is where they really need to. One sec. This is where they really need to strap the rocket and let Wardlow do what Wardlow does, and that's kick ass, take names, and win championships. So yeah, Wardlow's my pick tonight. Now, if you guys are just joining us, so far my picks tonight for 0 Hour, it was Mark Briscoe and the Lucha Brothers, Jungle Jack Perry beating Christian Cage, Ricky Starks beating Chris Jericho, and Wardlow beating Samoa Joe for the TNT title. Now we go on to the House of Black versus the Elite for the All Elite Wrestling Trios Championships. Now, I just talked before about how the Lucha Brothers getting relegated to the pre-show pisses me off. Now, the Elite did not need these championships. I know they technically never lost the titles. They won them and then immediately had to surrender them because of the fiasco with CM Punk, which, if you ask me, everybody in that situation, extremely unprofessional, and they let everybody down. But the fact that the Elite is the champions again, like I said, I get it. They never lost their championships, so I mean, I understand. But the fact that there was 7 matches, and I mean, honestly, I mean, like, yeah, a lot of the matches, people were like, oh my God, these are the greatest matches ever, but really weren't all that spectacular. If you've seen one match from the Lucha Brothers and Kenny Omega, or the Lucha Brothers, or Death Triangle, actually, the Death Triangle versus the Elite, you've seen them all. They were the same exact match, just with different stipulations. So, I mean, honestly, again, this is where I keep using the seismic shift. This is where it needs to happen. Tonight is the night it needs to happen. The House of Black needs to take those trios championships, and they need to run with it. They have to run with it. There's no way they cannot run with those championships. They have to. They absolutely have to here tonight. And if the Elite wins, then it just goes to show you again, like I said before, that the company has no faith in people like the House of Black. Now, when the House of Black first debuted, I didn't think, anything of it. Brody King. I really didn't know Brody King before he came to AEW. I had no idea who the fuck he was. Malachi Black, of course I knew who that was. And Buddy Matthews, of course everybody knows who that is. But actually, I was at the show. Quick shout out here to PPW. I was at the show, Buddy's first post WWE match, which basically led to him teasing that he was going to be joining AEW. He did Aleister Black's pose in the middle of the ring. And then a couple months later, there he was. So shout out to PPW, by the way, for that one. But yeah, like I said, this is the night that the House of Black needs to win the titles, and they need to go on to be one of the best trio champions in the world. They have to do it. And they can't win the championships and then lose them right back to the Elite. That's not how this works. Can't do it. Just because you're the EVPs doesn't mean you get special privileges. It's not how it works. Come on. Now, the House of Black, they're 3 amazing talents. Like I said, I didn't know Brody King before he came to AEW, but I love his work. I think I almost said Brody Lee. Brody King is a bad, bad motherfucker. I'll tell you that much. But I really, really want to see the House of Black take those titles tonight. I really want to see the House of Black just run with it. They have to, bro. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The House of Black needs these titles tonight. And again, if they lose, it just shows me that the company has zero faith in the House of Black. And if, like I said, if Ricky Starks loses, it just shows me that they have zero faith in most of these guys, most of these young guys. You know what I mean? And yeah, you can make the argument, oh, well, Buddy and Malachi are WWE guys. Why do they get the championships? Because they got fucked in WWE. That's why. They got fucked in WWE, and they're getting fucked in AEW. And they need to not be getting fucked in AEW. They need to be winning championships in AEW and being the biggest, baddest motherfuckers on the block. Simple. It's very, very simple. So my pick is the House of Black to win the Trios Championships. And then we move on. We have the Tag Team Championships. We have the Guns versus the Acclaimed versus Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal versus Orange Cassidy and Danhausen. Now, for shits and giggles, I want Orange Cassidy and Danhausen to win. I'm not just saying that because Orange Cassidy is to Phillipsburg High School, and that's where most of my family went. But yeah, honestly, I think if anybody needs this victory, the Guns need to retain if they want to continue. Because I mean, if you would have asked me 6 months ago if the Guns would even still have a job now, I would have called you crazy. Yeah, they had the whole gimmick going on with the scissoring and daddy ass and all that stuff. But if you would have said 6 months ago that the Gun Club would be tag team champions, I would have looked at you and laughed. Hell, I looked at everybody and laughed when they won the tag team championships. I really don't think that they're championship material. But I digress. Somebody higher up thinks they are, so they are. Now, with that being said, if they want to establish the Guns as a heel tag team, a top heel tag team in AEW, they already got the championships. Now they got to retain the championships. That's the hardest part. Winning the championships, you got them, they're there. Now you got to defend those championships. You got to retain that championship, and you got to let people know that you ain't taking shit from nobody. But yeah, so I think the Guns take it tonight. They need to take it tonight. And that is my pick for the AEW Tag Team Championship match, because I definitely don't want to see no damn Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal winning the Tag Team Championships. Now, again, I'm a very innocent until proven guilty kind of guy, but I've heard a lot of nasty shit about Jay Lethal. Some nasty, nasty shit about Jay Lethal. And I want it to not be true, but if it is, then fuck him and everything he stands for. But if it's not true, like I said, I'm innocent, always an innocent until proven guilty kind of guy. You know what I mean? Like, if there's proof and there's facts about what he said and what he's done, then fuck him. You know, I don't need to see Jay Lethal. I was never really a big fan of him other than when he was Black Machismo, which was like the most over he's ever been. But Jeff Jarrett, I've never been a Jeff Jarrett guy. Whether it was WWF, whether it was TNA, and especially now in AEW, I was never a Jeff Jarrett guy. So I think tonight, I think the Guns or the Acclaimed really need the tag team titles, but the Guns need it more than anybody. I think the Guns retain the tag team titles. And then we got Jamie Hayter versus Ruby Soho versus Saraya for the AEW Women's Championship. And I've been calling her the wrong name for a long ass time. I've been calling her Saraya, which I always thought that's what it was, but apparently it's not. It's Saraya. So you learn something new every day. Now, see, this is an interesting match because Saraya hasn't. This is what, her third, fourth match back in 7, 8 years. She retired in what, 2016, 2017? She's been gone for a while. She's been retired for a while. So this puts it in an interesting spot here because Saraya's been Divas champion more than once. Ruby Soho, she was never champion, so it doesn't really make a big difference if Jamie Hayter pins her or not. But if they want to establish Jamie Hayter, this is the moment to do it. AEW, like I said, this is their WrestleMania, man. They got to do it. They got to take all their new stars. They got to get that, this person's the next WWE guy, fucking stigma, and get it out of there. Jamie Hayter has, for the last number of weeks, looked like a damn star. And tonight, she needs to continue to look like a damn star. She needs to retain the championship. Now, personally, I want Ruby to win. Now, that's just me. I want the Runaway to take the championship. I've been a big Ruby Soho fan for a long time, all the way back when she was Heidi Klum, man. I've been a huge, huge fan of her. So to see her win her first singles championship tonight would be absolutely, I'd love it. I would be, I'd be a very happy man if Ruby Soho won the championship tonight. But I'm going to go with Jamie Hayter. I think Jamie Hayter, she needs to win. She needs to establish herself over two already very established talents. And down the line, I feel like it should be, by the time they get to All Out next year, or later this year, excuse me, I feel like it should be Hayter versus Baker, and that's really what's going to put Jamie Hayter over to the top as the next female star of the company. It was Britt Baker for a while, but it needs to be somebody, I'm not saying Britt can't ever win a championship again, but Jamie Hayter needs to be established as the next top woman star in AEW, and this is the perfect opportunity to do it. Have her win here tonight, have her go on down the line, because Britt's getting jealous that she got that title. Go on down the line, and they're going to fight it out, and it's going to be a hell of a show. It's going to be a hell of a show when Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker finally collide. And then we got the Texas Death Match between Jon Moxley and Hangman Adam Page. So the over-under on Jon Moxley bleeding here tonight is probably about 2 minutes. 2 minutes into the match, guaranteed Jon Moxley's going to bleed, and they're going to catch it on camera because for some reason the production team just cannot stay away. And they cannot stay away while he's, nicking at his forehead. If you're going to have a guy gig, at least have him gig off camera. Tony, please. You do it a lot. Please let your guys gig off camera. It's a Texas death match in San Francisco. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I get the, Texas death match. That's like it's a stipulation, but it's in San Francisco. Want to make sure, what do I know? What do I know? I'm just some guy on YouTube with like 100 subs. What the fuck do I know? You know what I mean? Like, honestly though, Jon Moxley, man, I don't know what the hell has happened to him over the last number of months, but Jon Moxley lost his luster, bro. Like, I don't know. This is gonna get me a lot of heat and a lot of hate. But I would rather have watched I would rather have watched Dean Ambrose in the last 3 months of him in WWE than present day Jon Moxley. And I know that's a hot take. And I know a lot of you that needs to be said. It needs to be said. Jon Moxley, he needs a resurgence. He needs some time off. Come back. Go spend some time with your fucking family, dude. I know you've been trying, but go spend some fucking time with your family. Come back 3, 4, 5, 6 months from now. Revitalize yourself, because he's getting stale. He's getting boring. He's getting to that point where he was in 2019 WWE. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care to see him. I didn't care to see him then, but I would rather watch that version of Dean Ambrose than this current version of Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley a half ago? Absolutely insane. Jon Moxley, when he first debuted for AEW, absolutely insane. When he won the championship at Revolution back in 2021, or was it 2020? Might have been 2020. I don't remember exactly what it was. But that Jon Moxley was kick-ass. This Jon Moxley, who needs the blade in every single match, otherwise it doesn't, otherwise the match isn't good. Blood doesn't make the match. It's the wrestlers that make the match. Yeah, the blood makes the match feel more real and feel more gritty, feels more raw. These guys are in there beating the shit out of each other. But when you do it every single match, it takes away from the aura. It takes away from the presence of the blood. Like, if Jon Moxley hasn't gigged in 3 weeks, the world's gonna end. You know what I mean? Like, it's a Texas death match, so you already know he's going to, and hopefully, like I said before, hopefully he does it off camera, at least this time. But honestly, Jon Moxley, he just lost his luster to me, and that pains me to say, because I was a big fan of his. Like, I know you guys, it's right behind me. I don't know if you guys can see it. There's an 8x10. It's signed by all 3 members of the Shield, dude. I absolutely love Dean Ambrose. And I loved Jon Moxley when he first started for AEW. But Jon Moxley now, I can't get into it. I really cannot get into it. So my pick for this Texas death match, Hangman Page hopefully takes it. That's my pick. I feel like AEW did Hangman dirty with his title reign. They did Hangman very, very dirty. And if you're an AEW fan, you agree with me deep down. You don't want to, but you're going to. You know damn well you're going to. They did that poor man dirty. After a year and a half of chasing the championship, he was champion for 3 months, 4 months, if that. He defended the championship like twice. Just shame how they did him. So hopefully tonight they right that wrong and they make him go over Moxley and put him back in contention for the championships. And speaking of championships, we go to the main event. Bryan Danielson, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, 60 minutes Iron Man match for the AEW World Championship. Now, this is an interesting one because a few years ago, I was a really big MJF guy. But after watching week after 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 week, he's more or less stays the same than he does change. You know what I mean? Like, now there's nothing wrong with sticking to your guns, and what works, works. But MJF, I don't know. There's just something about him that I can't get with. You know what I mean? Like, I'm glad he's world champion. I felt like he'd been champion a while ago. But I'm glad he's world champion. But there's just something about MJF that I can't put my fucking finger on. That just irritates me. And not in a good way either. Like, not like, oh, he's a bad guy. He's supposed to irritate you. No. Like, the whole thing sending Bryan Danielson through the runaround to get to the World Championship. It's the same exact thing he did with Chris Jericho. It's the same exact thing he did with Cody Rhodes. You know, we've seen it. It's a rinse and repeat, and that's really seems to be MJF's forte, rinse and repeat. And after 3 years, 4 years of rinse and repeat, it does get kind of boring. And again, like I said, it hurts me to say because I really like MJF. I really do. I'm glad he's champion, but the rinse and repeat shit's got to stop, man. They got to do something else with this guy. Oh, MJF's in a feud with a guy? Here, let's have MJF stack the deck against this guy week after week after week. They did it with Jericho. They did it with Cody. They're doing it with Daniel. There's just no reason for it. Absolutely zero reason for it. And Bryan Danielson, I don't know if he wants to be world champion again. You know what I mean? He's getting pretty late into his career. He had to retire once. He's getting pretty late into his career. I mean, hell, they could pull the trigger tonight. They could pull the trigger and put the title on Bryan. I'd be more than happy to see that. I love Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan, the American Dragon, the American Nightmare, or not the American Nightmare, the Miracle Kid, the American Nightmare is Cody. He's in a different company. Right idea, wrong person. However, I love Bryan Danielson. Whether he was under the name of Bryan Danielson or Daniel Bryan, always been a fan of him. I was very happy to see him win the WWE Championship. I'd be very, very happy to see him win the AEW Championship if he wins it here tonight. However, I feel like he doesn't really necessarily need it. Like I said, he's at that point in his career where he doesn't really need to be champion. Bryan Danielson doesn't need a championship to be over. He's fucking Bryan Danielson. He's the leader of the Yes Movement. He's the American Dragon. He doesn't need the championship. Would it be nice to have him have the championship? Oh, hell yeah. Hell yes, it would be nice to see him be the champion. But he doesn't need it. MJF needs it, and MJF needs to keep the championship. So my pick tonight, MJF. MJF is my pick to win the 60-minute Iron Man match. And I could be wrong. They might pull the trigger and say, you know what? We've had enough. Let's give the championship to Bryan. Well, because, how much longer do we really have Bryan Danielson around? You know what I mean? He's, like I said, he's a father now. He's had to retire once because of injury. He's probably not going to, if he wins the championship, he's not going to be champion long, a couple months. But I don't think Bryan Danielson really needs it. And MJF really needs somebody big to put him over because, Punk didn't want to do it. So I feel like MJF and Danielson are going to have a hell of a match, and I feel like MJF's going to go over and retain the championship, as much as it pains me to say it, because I would love to see Bryan with the title. But my pick is MJF, and that brings us to the end of AEW. What that was, something that brings us to the end of the AEW predictions. Make sure you guys check out the Wrestling All Day podcast here on social, or right here on YouTube. You guys out on social media. I'll post the links in the comments. Make sure you guys check out American Excellence Wrestling. I'll be there next month. Just repping the crew. I got a video coming out for them in the next couple of weeks, a highlight video from the last show we were at, and a hype video for the next show. Make sure you check out Battlefield Pro Wrestling. I'll be there in a couple weeks on the 26th for a show. That's in Broadheadsville, Pennsylvania. Make sure you check out Battlefield Pro Wrestling run by Alpha Jr. Pennsylvania Premier Wrestling. Make sure you check that out. And that's basically it. Make sure you check out the merch site if you want to get some cool Wrestling All Day podcast merch. You want to find some figures. You want to find some 8x10s. I'm your hookup. I got it all on the site. Signaturesspotlight.square.site. Make sure you check that out. And, we'll see if I was right with all these predictions here at AEW Revolution. Revolution comes your way. Pre-show starts in about... Doesn't say. Oh, pre-show starts at 7 p.m., so a couple hours still, about 3 hours until the pre-show begins. And then we'll see if my predictions are right. And then maybe I'll come on here live tomorrow after work, and we'll do a little bit of a recap. So stay tuned for that. Depends on how I feel after I get out of work. But with that in mind, remember, it's not just all day, it's every day. And I'll catch y'all for the next one. Make sure you subscribe to our Patreon as well. We have a $1 tier, we have a $5 tier, and we have a $10 tier. Make sure you guys get your Patreon subs in. If you subscribe to the $10 tier, you'll get special shout-outs on all of our videos, including our lives. We just made the Patreon. We don't have any subs at the moment on Patreon. But again, our lowest tier starts at $1. That gets you a personal thank you and early access to all of our videos, except for our lives. We'll do those here. So with that in mind, it's not just all day, it's every day. And I'll catch y'all for the next one. Peace.